all for coming tonight, for being here in this holiday season. Happy holidays to everyone, however you celebrate them. Thank you to the Bureau of General Services, Queer Division, for hosting this event and for just being in existence. Thank you to the center also for housing us tonight and for all the work that you do for this community. We really need places like both of you in our world. Mark your calendars for January 31st. We have another reception at the Cowgirl Hall of Fame on Hudson Street. Thank you also to Edie Windsor. Thank you so much for your wise words in the foreword. Thank you for being a part of First Comes Love. I know you always say that it's you who has to thank the gay community, but really, we could never thank you enough. You are our treasure. Thank you to Allison, my spouse, for supporting me through this project, through all the years and the work that it took, and for the last 26 years. The other pretty blonde is Soleil. You'll hear that. And thank you to the couples of First Comes Love. Some of you are here tonight. You guys just give a wave. Susan and Nikki are here, and Gary and David. So, let me begin by asking the most common questions. The first of which is that your real name? It is. It's on my birth certificate. Barbara Proud is really my name. So I'm pretty lucky to be a lesbian photographer with a name like Me Proud. But my parents fortuitously gave it to me at birth, and I just have to live up to it. And Edie will tell you a story about how she really didn't believe it. She thought it was a hoax, and wouldn't reply to me for a long time because she thought it was really a joke. But it's for real. So you can call me B, you can call me Barbara, but it really is my name. I'm a commercial photographer and a fine art photographer, and I have been so for quite a few years now. I'm also an adjunct associate professor at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia, a job that I love very much. And unfortunately, one of my very first students who was supposed to be here tonight is not here. She also has a book out. This is Speaking Out, Queer Youth in Focus by Rochelle Lee Smith, so you should check it out. So what is First Comes Love? Well, this is a celebration, really. It really is a celebration of the long-term relationships in our community. Anywhere from, this is the shortest term relationship in the project. This is 11 years, and this is one of the longest. This is 55 years. This is it's now a book, thank goodness. It's an exhibition, it's a book, it's a series of videos, it's a song that I'm going to treat you to later, and hopefully someday it might actually even be a longer film. So I'm also asked often, well, how did you begin this project? What started it? And it was really a domino effect of things. I had been doing a very different kind of work after the sequential deaths of my sister, my uncle, my father, and my mother-in-law in fairly rapid succession. I began to wonder, like, what's the deal here? What's going on with life? And examine things a little more closely. And I did a series called Alter Eros that was really about these close-up Georgia O'Keeffe-esque botanical things and the common nature of the botanical world and the human world. So I had kind of finished with that project. I had a few exhibitions of this work, and it had kind of run its course. I needed something new to do. So that was in the fires. And then on October the 21st of 2008, Allison and I hit our 20th anniversary. And on that day, not the day before, but that day, we became the longest relationship in our families. Yeah. So we had a few that ended at the matrimonial till death do us part, but there were others that were on their second, third, and fourth tries at something longer. So not only were we the longest relationship, but we were also the go-to couple. So we are the executors of wills, the power of attorney. We're the godparents to the nieces and nephews. We take care of the pets. We move the old people out of their house when it's too much for them to deal with anymore. Everybody comes to us. Can you have the party at so-and-so? Yes, we'll have the party. My niece has been having her sleepover birthday parties at our house since she was 7. She's now 17, and they still come. We're Aunt B and Aunt Allie. So everyone considered us a viable couple, but we still didn't get the recognition that everyone else did. We were missing those 1,138 rights that everyone else got the minute they said, let's do it again. So I was very proud of us, but disappointed in the validation. And then in November, a month later, we elected Barack Obama, and I had more hope for our country. I thought we were going in a better direction with a fair-minded president. But in that same election, Proposition 8 passed, and $43 million was spent on hate in California, Arkansas, Arizona, and Florida. And I was livid. I was so upset that people can still have that kind of hate against love. John Lennon said, love is all you need. Love makes the world go round. First comes love. Love is all it takes to make a better community. Why is it that people can hate us so much for this? So, those things in sequence put me on a new project. And I decided that I really needed to do something and use my voice, my artistic voice, to make a difference. I wanted to do something that would honor my relationship and the other relationships like it in our community. I needed a new project, so I wanted something new to do. I wanted to tell people that love is love. Please understand this. It's all good. In the process, I wanted to challenge myself, so I decided that I was going to learn video, something I knew nothing about. And I was going to interview each couple so that in the process I would have information with which I could write the stories, and I would also have pieces that I could put together for a film someday. So I took inspiration from this picture I had taken of Susan and Nikki, my very oldest and dearest friends, from their 15th anniversary. And the project was born. I made a flyer and I started emailing my friends and asked them to email their friends, and I reached out on social network, and I reached out to couples I had met. The guys on the cover I had met voting a dinner for the Human Rights Campaign. I would see them every single year at the same dinner, so I knew they were together for a while, even though they looked like they're 12. So I started pulling together people, and in March of 2009, I took my first portrait, again, of Susan and Nikki. I wanted to tell the story of love, of real love, the story that just doesn't get told. I wanted to make an expressive portrait that shows the tenderness and the depth of our relationships. And I wanted to get rid of the stereotypes that we usually see. I wanted to get rid of the flamboyance, the gay pride parades, the rainbow flags, all that stuff that people typically associate with us. Scantily clad men, etc. So I decided that I wanted to make my portraits in black and white, to strip all of that away, to get rid of all of the rainbow stuff and make people look at the true essence of our relationship and go beyond the surface and see who these people really were. I didn't want to take candid pictures. I wanted a real portrait sitting because I thought that would make the couple seem more heroic, more important. I wanted to show the environment because I wanted people to see something else besides just their faces, something more about their lives. And I hope that by adding the stories, I would get the viewers to understand even more. From the beginning, I really wanted this project to be educational. Every photographer wants a monograph of their images, a book of photographs with their name on it. But this wasn't about me and my photographs, it was about us and our community. I had a vision from the very start. I really did want it to be a book. And I wanted it to be an exhibition that could be seen in not galleries, but public places. City Hall, municipal buildings, airports. I envisioned the portraits being really big, life-size, so that people would look these people eye to eye and really see who they were. So I made them vertical, so all the pictures in the book are vertical. I haven't printed them that big yet, but maybe someday. But I also thought that would be a way to fill the pages of a book. I initially began with making the interviews. So I thought that the couples would relax more if they talked about themselves first. But some couples talked about themselves for a really long time. And there wasn't time to make the portrait, so I had to switch that. So I would spend 4 or 5 hours with them when time allowed. Sometimes I had to go back to do the video interview, or I would do it over the phone, or I would send email questions to pull all that stuff together. And I would ask them to choose a place that was really special to them in their home, or if it was outside their home, another place that was really meaningful to them. I talked to them about what to wear because it was in black and white. I wanted them to think about wearing lights and darks for contrast. And I remember talking to Michael and Dan about what they were going to wear. This is not them. This is Michael and Dan. And I said, oh, you guys are so spiritual. I see you wearing something light and linen-y and flowing. They wore black, and their studio was black, but we worked that out. So the stories include so many things that we go through: immigration, adoption, healthcare, days in the military, the death of a partner, as Alex experienced, inheritance, hospital visitation, living with HIV, AIDS, and more. In all, I photographed more than 75 couples. I traveled as far as I possibly could, the farthest place being San Francisco. I really wanted to be inclusive of our community. I wanted to include all of the L's, the G's, the B's, the T's, and the Q's, and any other consonants that come in. So there are trans couples. There are Hispanic couples. There are African American couples. There are mixed race couples. There are Asian couples. The book wasn't whole until I had a well-represented example of who we are. But there was still one more photograph after I got all of that diversity that I really wanted to complete this project. One that would really just seal the deal. And for 2 years, I wrote to Ms. Edie Windsor. I went to the Gay Pride Parade where she was the marshal, thinking if this is what I have to do to get it, this is where I'm going to go. And I followed that whole parade all the way down to the village until it ended. It was so hot that day. So I got that picture, but I still wanted a formal portrait. And I wrote to Robbie Kaplan, and I tried every avenue I could get to. She was a little busy. So she politely declined, but remember, she thought it was a hoax too, because she wasn't believing that the Be Proud was really the real thing. So I finally was like, all right, she just can't do it. She's too busy. There's too much going on. It's just not her thing. Okay, but I sent her one more package in early December of 2013. I sent her one of these photographs and a letter. You're so important to us. You would be really great in this book. We want you so badly. Please. And I just put it out to the universe, and I waited, and nothing happened. And it was about 2 months later, and it was January 15th, 2014, and it was my birthday. And I was not very happy that day because I was getting older and I was a little grumpy about it. But I was out with my dog doing errands, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to get myself one of those really decadent coffees and try to cheer myself up. So I did, and I ordered whatever, how many names are in the coffee. And while I was waiting for the coffee, my cell phone rang, and I looked at it, and I don't know, what is this number? I don't know who this is. So I almost didn't answer him, and then I did. And on the other end of the line, the voice said, Barbara, this is Edie Windsor. You're doing great work. I want to be a part of your project. My heart started to pound. I started to shake. I just couldn't believe it. And the stars aligned. We had a great conversation. It was brief. We talked about we would make a date, which we did, which was 6 weeks later. But I hung up the phone, and I swear to you, if you've seen the movie When Harry Met Sally, Meg Ryan in the diner, that was me. Yes, yes, yes! Pounding on the table. People thought I was crazy. Allison was teaching a class. I knew I couldn't reach her, so I had to run out to my car and call Susan and tell her what had just happened. And I didn't stop smiling, I know, for at least a week. So, sure enough, we had our date. She was so gracious. We spent the day with her. We made an amazing portrait. She told us amazing stories. And I can't thank you enough. This completed the project for me, having this portrait. And if you haven't seen the current issue of Curve magazine, thank you, Mary Johns. So, how did it become a book? Well, after I started, I had what I thought was enough portraits. I made a book from a company called Blurb, which is print on demand, and that means you upload a bunch of pictures and they send you back a book. So it's a little cost prohibitive. It cost me $150 a piece, but it was something I needed. I needed to show couples what I was doing. I used it to apply for grants, and I used it to approach publishers. Because I really wanted this to be a book. And with the publishers, it's either, well, we're not accepting submissions, or you have to know somebody who knows somebody and go through the back door. And I found somebody who knew somebody in a couple places, and I got it into a few agencies, and it went up a few notches in the chain, and they all thought it was really amazing and really great. And they all said, well, we did a gay book. We did a book like that. We did a book on famous lesbians in color. And this book won't sell, I'm sorry. And I said, did you see the news in 2013? Because this needs to be a book. So I was uniformly denied from the publishers, and I said, okay, I have to do it myself, and so I did. I knew I had talented friends and great resources at the university where I teach, and I could put it together. I could put something together that was good enough. So I created Soleil Press. And again, this is Soleil. So we had a great design. A friend that has designed things for me for years. I got estimates from around the world. We chose a printer. We sequenced the book. We did rounds and rounds of proofing, and after 5 years of work, in May of 2014, it went to press. And a few days later, I saw this. So I knew I did the right thing. In August, the slow boat arrived. Literally, now I know why it's the slow boat. It was literally a month on the boat from China. And we had a book. So, because I'm a first-time self-published author, I don't have access to normal distribution channels. So this book is not available on Amazon. You have to buy it from Donnie and Greg. Or you can find it in other independent stores, like this bookstore in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Or on our website, firstcomeslove.org. So people also ask me which couples are the most moving, which couples stand out, which moved you the most? They all do. It's been a remarkable experience. being with all of these people and hearing their stories. Each is so unique and so different, but also many things are the same. I asked them all, what does it take to stay together for this long? And every single one of them said, communication, respect, and love. I think the bishop mentioned sex, but many came to tears talking about their love for each other. They've all thanked me for doing this project, for telling their story, for telling our story, and I'm really honored to be that voice. What's changed since I began the project in 2001? A whole lot. I had no idea that things would change and change so fast. It's amazing. DOMA is done. Allison and I are now married, as are many others, and thank you, Edie, I had to rewrite a lot of stories. But changing the laws doesn't change minds. There's our marriage picture. Changing laws doesn't change minds. Just before the book launch in Philadelphia, 2 guys were severely beaten just because they're gay. So it's because people don't understand us, and that's what I want this book to do. I want people to understand us. This is Bob and Rich. This is the longest couple, 59 years. And if you would bear with me, I really would like you to read you this story. And this is just the only one I'll read. Bob and Rich, born 3 days apart in 1937, had the honor of being the longest relationship in the First Comes Love project. They met in 1955 at Trinity College at freshman orientation. Rich looked across the room, and when his eyes landed on Bob, he was so overcome that he started to shake, but was determined to meet him. While most of the guys were out playing softball, their friendship began. Back in those days, everyone was closeted. According to Rich, even to each other, there was a process of coming out and checking each other out to make sure that this was going to be okay. As Bob remembers, we sat together in psychology class where we learned we were listed as criminally deviant. They both confirmed that what works for them in staying together for many decades is the chemistry. The emotional, spiritual, and physical chemistry is just right. Otherwise, they consider themselves quite ordinary. If our life together were seen through a heterosexual lens, there would be nothing startling about the relationship or anything about us. We're a family, Rich says, with real family values. If anything should happen to either of us, the survivor would need to be comforted. Mundane as they may claim to be, they have made many compromises along the way in order to live what they consider a mainstream life. They have always put their relationship first above all vocational opportunities and aspirations. For these lifelong Episcopalians, the church plays a very central part in their lives. An ordained Episcopal priest, Rich had originally intended to invest himself fully in the church. But in 1965, a career as a full-time priest of a parish would not have included a life with Bob, the man he loved. It was made quite clear that if he wished to rise through the hierarchy of the church, he would need to marry a woman. Rather than create a facade or live a lie, he chose to serve part-time at different parishes and 2 cathedrals while simultaneously pursuing a career in higher education. Bob also worked for the church, serving as a parish treasurer and, of course, as a test audience for Rich's sermons. For his service to the church, Rich was installed in 1992 as an honorary canon for life of Christ Church Cathedral, Hartford, Connecticut. At a time when closet doors were closed tightly, they made sure that their home was their impenetrable castle. Rich pursued an alternate career as a teacher of philosophy and religious studies at the college level. He earned 3 graduate degrees, including master's degrees from Hartford Seminary and Yale University, and a PhD from NYU. Bob pursued a career in education as well. He earned a master's degree in secondary school administration and worked as a public school teacher of secondary mathematics for 35 years. Their chosen careers in education allowed them the freedom to travel during their summers and vacation to distant lands where they could be more open about their relationship and not concerned about what people saw or thought. They spent many summers in Florida. Particularly in the early years of their relationship, two men seen together frequently going to the movies or shopping together raised eyebrows. Going out to dinner could be interpreted as a business meeting, but Bob and Rich were still very cautious. In 1967, they moved into a home that Bob designed, a two-family house divided into two separate living spaces with separate addresses, entrances, and phone numbers that provided the necessary facade for their life together. For their neighbors, blue-collar Italian Roman Catholics, it worked. The men chatted with Bob about cars or landscaping, and their sons mowed their lawns and shoveled their snow. As a priest, Rich buried Bob's brother, parents, and grandmother, but had to conceal his emotions as Bob's partner and lover. When he visited Bob in a hospital after surgery, he put on a clerical collar in order to gain access to Bob's room. He could only show the emotions of priest to parishioner. Rich lamented, "In those days, I couldn't have made emergency decisions as next of kin." Every September, for many years, they celebrated their anniversary, even their 25th, quietly. Only in later years could they celebrate with friends. As Rich says, you can't grieve publicly and you can't celebrate publicly, but we got used to that. We feel that our life together is so enriched in so many ways that it's mostly positive. In 1994, Bob and Rich retired to Florida, where they live in a continuing care retirement community so that they can always be close should one need more care than the other. Bullying happily out of the closet, they served as Grand Marshals in the 2005 Pride Fest parade in nearby Lake Worth. For 53 years, they shared a wonderful life together, fueled by their love and devotion, but protected by no vows or laws. In 2009, Bob and Rich were legally married in Trinity College Chapel in Connecticut, back where they first met on that first day of freshman orientation. In September of 2014, they celebrated their 59th anniversary. So once the neighbors got to know them, it was okay. So I can already see that my goal of educating is working. After my first exhibition of this work in Jamestown, New York, Western New York, rural New York, I received an email from a woman like a week after the exhibition opened. And she said, this is other part of the exhibition, "I'm from a really small town with absolutely no LGBTQ community whatsoever, and your show was my first real experience with anything related to that world, to my world. Words cannot express how amazing it was to me in a way. It felt like coming home. I was reminded that there really is such a thing as love, and one day, maybe I'll be as lucky as any of the folks in your photographs, Nicole." That, for me, was worth every penny I had spent. Another couple at that same show said they had learned so much from my talk and from reading the stories. They were going home to call their gay daughter who lived in North Carolina because they didn't know how much discrimination she really experienced. After the show in Philadelphia, I got this email from a colleague. "Hi Barbara, I just wanted to write and say how incredibly beautiful and powerful I find your series, First Comes Love. I'm deeply moved, touched, and grateful to you for sharing and bringing to light this incredibly compelling body of work. The portraits are stellar, as is all of your work, and the stories are amazing. I've been taking the time to visit the show when I have snippets of time, to read each and every story and to reflect. My hair stands on end as I read each story, and last night when I was home alone, thinking about all of it, it made me want to cry. Tears of joy for the fact that these couples are a true testament of how powerful love can be, combined with the sadness I feel, knowing that so much hate exists in the world we live in. I'm baffled and sickened by the latest incident in Center City, can only hope and pray that legislation is passed soon to include sexual orientation in the hate crime bill. A silver lining, so to speak. Even though I couldn't even begin to imagine the struggle and strife that many LGBTQ couples face, as hard as I might try to, I have a great respect for what each couple represents and their dedication, their perseverance, their strength. Truly beautiful." Okay, so this couple wrote to me from Canada and said, "Please, how much would it cost to send the book to Canada?" And I said, "Double." And she said, "I really want to use this book to propose to my girlfriend. I'll pay the money, please sign it. just say yes because Darlis loves you so much. And they sent me this from the engagement session. So, and these are the books. My brother-in-law houses the slow boat from China shipment at his roofing warehouse company, and I went up to get some books, and he wasn't there, but his employee was. And this was a very disheveled employee, dirty hair, no teeth. And he said, so this says first comes love, so I guess this is about girly stuff, huh? I said, no, it's actually photography. And he said, oh, so it's pictures of landscapes. And I said, no, not really. It's pictures of couples. And he said, oh. I said, there's a couple that have been together for a long time. He said, oh, so my parents could be in this. And I said, well, maybe, but not, probably not. And then I said, okay, what do I do now? This is my brother-in-law's employee. How far do I go? Okay, I'm going for it. So I said, no, this is about gay couples that have been together for a long time. And he said, oh, my wife has a gay friend. I was really afraid of him at first, but he turned out to be a really great guy. And I opened the box, and I handed him a book, and I said, here, I hope you enjoy it. So again, I had my chance to educate, and that's really what I want to do. So for me, this book is, it's also a very historical, It's a very historical document because of who's in it. The Proposition 8 couples are in it. The mayor of Houston is in it. The first couple married in Washington, D.C. is in it. First couple married in Delaware. The Bishop, Gene Robinson. Barbara Giddings and Kayla Usen, two of the very first gay pioneers. Edie and Thea. And if you have not seen this movie, Susan's movie, you have to see this movie. Again, First Comes Love is a sponsored project of Fractured Atlas. So if you haven't made any tax-deductible contributions at the end of the year, you can support this project and help send this exhibition across the country by making contributions tax-deductible through fracturedatlas.org. This is Michael and Dan, and oh man, cross your fingers because Michael and Dan are two amazingly creative men. They are playwrights and poets and just artists of every sort, musicians. They came to me and they said, Barbara, what would you think if we wrote a song inspired by your project? And I said, wow, okay. And about 2 months later, maybe, they said, hey, do you want to come hear the song? Okay. So Allison and I went into the city and we had a glass of wine and Dan started to play. And within about 20 seconds, we were both crying because the song was so amazing and so beautiful, and it was more than what we could have hoped for. It was absolutely what we wanted. We had it recorded here in New York with some amazing musicians, and I photographed and filmed the recording sessions, and I'm going to try to play it for you here tonight. There they are. Okay. Take a moment. Hold on.
There will always be some for and some against, always some lose, some win.
There will always be rules and regulations, always some out, always some in.
When it comes to love, no one can stop us, no person, no paper, no powers that be. When it comes to love, there's no turning away. For when love is true, as it is for me and you,
loving me.
First comes love, then comes more and more and more love. So much more. Love all you can, deeper and deeper. Our love will set us free. No one, no way can stop me from loving you. Can't wait around for someone to decide what makes a groom, what makes a bride. You are the love of my life. Be my husband. Be my wife. First comes love, then comes more love, then comes more and more and more love. So much more. Love all you can, deeper and deeper. From sea to shining sea. No one, no way can stop me. No more, no word, no one can stop me from loving you. And you loving me.
Beautiful. Thank you, guys. And thank all of you for coming tonight. And I think we are going to open up the floor for some questions and answers, maybe. Edie, would you like to join me? Would you like to join me, Edie? Unless you want the mic, and you can have that too.
I never heard of her, and until what actually happened when she finally, when I finally gave in, I don't know where I even saw it, because you hadn't given me a copy yet, that Jen and Adrian were in it, and I trust them, and I thought, okay, that's all right, if they say it's all right, then it's all right, and that's what I'm doing. And then proceeded. But I think it's a thrilling book. I can't tell you the number of people who are anxious to be in it.
Volume 2?
We're looking at it in the second volume, the 4 of them, 5. It's amazing. Okay. Everybody who's been through that process of, yes, we were together for 40 years, and yes, we finally could get married. So, I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful you're all here tonight. This is thrilling to me. Okay.
Thrilling to me, too.
Part of your project.
If somebody had said I would be here from that day in 2009, I would have said you're correct.
And I guess we're going to let people ask questions.
We are, yeah? Who has a question? Come on.
We love you, Edie. Yes, we do. We love you, Edie. And yes, it's true. Now there's no Doma. Yahoo! Oh, Edie, we love you.
The night before Gay Pride by the Dice March. We met, okay, and she played the drum, okay, and I wanted to see when the Dice come marching in.
How did you seek out and choose the subjects for your book?
I started with my friends, and I wrote to them, and I asked them to reach out to their networks, and reach out to their networks and their networks, and then I used social media like crazy, and sought out people that I really wanted in the book, like the Proposition 8 couples. Bishop Robinson, I actually was asked to photograph him for the cover of a magazine, so I took the opportunity to say, hey, would you be willing to do this? And he said yes. And then people started to recommend other people for me, and Michael and Dan, they know everybody all over the place. Someone emailed me from California and said they wanted to be a part of the project, and I said, okay, how many people do you know in California? So I really wanted the diverse factor, so I really had to ask people, hey, do you know people of this? Because I have to tell you that if you have one couple, one gay white male couple in their 40s, they have 40 other couples that are their friends, and I had to say, I have to stop, like, next volume. I really need the diversity this time. Tony.
Were there couples who were fearful of being visible in that way? Like maybe couples who were older who were so used to being closeted even in a relationship? Was there any convincing? How was that?
Edie, I had to convince Edie. But that was my name. I'm going to have to change my name for parts of things. There was an older couple that declined, and I have to be honest, I had a little bit of trouble with African American couples that I had several who said yes and then backed out. I'm not sure why, it's a cultural thing or whatever, but by and large, the people that said they wanted to do it really wanted to do it, and they were really happy about it. So.
Can you imagine the difference now in years from when you started to now and the willingness?
I know. Well, now people see the book and now they're like, can we be in the book? When are you going to do another one? I want to be in the book. And people are writing to me with their stories as well. So that's pretty cool. I'd like to actually create something interactive, a blog or something where people can actually post their own things.
I wanted to say something about it. Robbie Kaplan had a strategy, and a big part of it had to do with one plaintiff, because people can respond to a story. And the book does that, I think, so gorgeously. Okay. I mean, story by story, I think changes the way the world looks at us. And a lot of the people are not people who are used to being, big figures out of the world. And they who wanted to be part of it. And it just thrills me. I don't even know what to say, but but our stories matter. Our stories matter to everybody.
Oh, Linda. Yeah. Will there be another volume? And when?
That's a great question. Well, first I have to sell volume 1.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm still in the hole with that one. So, but it would be a lot. I'm missing. Yeah.
Buying books.
You can help me by buying books. Yes, please, and have your friends buy books. And I would love to do a volume 2. I'm missing doing the portraits now because I'm really wearing all the hats that it takes to be a publisher and a marketer, and this is shipping and receiving right here. So yeah, I would love to do it.
You have to repeat questions for me.
Oh, she wanted to know when volume 2 was, and will there be volume 2?
Can
You're
you
in
tell
charge.
people who that lady is who asked the question? That's the executive director of the Gay Center.
Really happy to have you here, and really happy to have them here. So, buy books.
Moving into people's lives and dealing with something so intimate, how did it change your life?
She said, dealing with people's lives and their intimate part of the lives, how did it change my life? Wow, that's a... Whoa. Well, it was a lot of really hard work, I can tell you that. And, you know, my relationship is really strong because it got through all of that really hard work, because I live with someone who supports me on the back end and helps take care of my 99-year-old mother when I'm away making photographs, and takes care of Soleil and takes care of herself and the rest of her family. So it was a challenge, and we got through it. And she thinks I'm smarter now. You do, yes, you do. I've really come to appreciate us as a community even more and on a deeper level, to see, you know, it was the point for me that, you know, we go through these decades and decades and decades of being together, and all of the things that it takes to keep a relationship together, and, you know, illness, family illness, financial problems, whatever it is, we do all those things, in addition to having to overcome all of the problems that we have as society that doesn't accept us. So we are extraordinary. Tammy, General Smith. This is Brigadier General Tammy Smith.
First off, carry on.
Who will be in volume 2, by the way.
Oh, no. I'll use my army voice. Okay. I was just wondering, what surprised you most? What was the most unexpected thing that you found in interacting with the couples?
I think that was the similarities, really. I mean, even though they're so different, everybody had the same answer to me about what it takes to stay together. And that was the dedication, the communication, the respect. It surprised me that they all said, "Thank you so much for doing this," and that they all just they would weep when they talked about their love for each other. It was so touching.
Yes, the differentiation between this country, and by the way, I could say this country as an entire nation. There is discrepancies when you travel across this country and as far as us. But even then, when we travel, I travel a lot, and if I go to Europe, it's a totally different atmosphere in regards to accepting us. And in Europe especially, there's different countries that accept us more than ever. And I embrace them countries, but the thing is that I see my counterparts a lot that stray away from these countries because they think that still exists. You don't know it doesn't exist unless you go there. And like I said, I travel a lot, and even in being in places like Africa, it's incredible. And by the way, they don't even accept us at all in Africa.
Right.
And I was at a conference in Cape Town, and we were talking about this very same item here, and it was like somebody was talking to the wall, nobody was listening. However, when I was in Greece recently at a big convention, I applauded for what they said and what they meant from their heart, which we don't find a lot anymore. And that's the sin of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Throughout your project, I wonder if there are any elements that you think there is a clear visibility for the LGBT community. Did you learn something that you think could be an extension of the project, or there is any element of visibility? But to see that.
Are there any other needs that I see through this project that should be happening?
Social needs of legal needs, which are pretty obvious, but I'm just curious about media visibility and just also more public things that you think that could happen.
Well, I'm not really sure what you're asking, but I think the more that we are out there, the more public we are, the better it will be. And that we should be strong and be who we are and be ourselves and be out there. And certainly there's a lot of work still to do with our community. Pam Bondi. But it's also the trans community now needs our help a lot. So that's kind of our next frontier too. So
I guess I want to say something that Robbie had said about people were saying, you know, depending on how the politics are happening, could they take it all away? And Robbie said too many people, too many Americans who believe in fairness, okay, and loving, in fact, okay, have seen these couples now. Okay, they've seen all these married couples, and nobody can take that away. There isn't a chance that any of the marriages could be hurt.
Yeah, Edie, I wanted to ask you if you could speak at all about sort of your relationship with Bea now. I mean, I know she's gone, but like I just was wondering like what that is as you continue on.
I think one, I'm extremely lucky for what has happened. I do think it's an accident of history, and I stumbled into it, and it made my life after losing Thea very different than it would have been otherwise. Probably Susan could probably, one of my filmmakers could probably speak to it better than I can. We are trying to do, or we're in the midst of doing, you know, a kind of an extra piece on the film. Okay, just talking about what has happened. But for me, I feel that I'm living until recently when I understood how many kids are still on the street, how many gay kids, okay, still desperately need help. They need you in every way. Okay, until I'm living in a world I couldn't have imagined this kind of joy and love. Okay, you know, after she died, it's all wonderful. Okay? And I'm determined to make it wonderful for those kids if there's anyone.
what's the most challenging demands on your schedule besides being an LGBT?
What's the most challenging part of being an LGBT icon?
Ah.
Besides the demands.
It's joyous. It's joyous.
You can't get on her schedule.
I mean, the only thing is that if you were all a bunch of monkeys, maybe it wouldn't be the same. You can't stop out on the street, and I'm only thrilled.
Well, first of all, I just want to say a wholehearted thank you to you, Edie, and Barbara for your project. And I want to say that for me, when we got married, one of the best things was to be able to use the word wife. It's, you know, it seems like a trivial thing in a lot of ways to be able to refer to Laura as my wife, but to, you know, I think about all the words that we've gone through in our relationship, from friend to lover to companion to partner to, you know, finally wife. And I just wanted to ask you about your years and how you conceptualized your relationship, how that might have evolved or changed or morphed over the time that you and Thea had together. If you had any comments about that.
You have to repeat what
I'm sorry. I can't hear. That was a long question.
I just wanted to know.
Could I give him a microphone? Okay, I think that's probably a good.
Come on up here and ask the question.
Yeah. I am very hard of hearing.
So you heard the thank you part, right?
So I just wanted to say that since we were able to get married, using the word wife has been a really huge, wonderful thing for me. Because, you know, you return something that your wife bought, you can just say that. You don't have to say, like, my partner and or whatever. And I just wondered, in your life, you know, how has your concept of your relationship and words for how you describe your relationship, and you know, did you imagine being married when you and Thea were young together? You know, how did that change over the years for you?
Okay, we became engaged in 1967.
Wow.
So, but we expect to be able to literally get married, though we did not. But it was, for us, it was symbolical of how we felt and what it would be. As a matter of fact, when New York first had domestic partners, my sister, who turned out to be fairly homophobic, but she still wasn't, and she said, well, how is it different for you, okay, as a domestic partner? And I said, I think it means I have to pay taxes. But again, it was the sound of it even was meaningful. Okay. One, people often refer to Thea as my wife. Thea was my butch. Now, I don't have another language for it. Okay. She wasn't my husband, and God knows she would rise up. I called her my wife.
I got one other thing.
I'm actually going to follow up on that a little bit, because I was really reticent about taking part in this because I thought this whole it seemed so regressive, frankly, to say, oh, we're going to get married. And then I thought, well, actually, we have, I actually want the survivor benefits, And so I'm really ambivalent about this, this idea that, one person with another person all through life is like this romantic ideal that we should all, yearn for. And on the other hand, it is the actual fact of my life. So I don't quite know what to. I want to thank you actually for giving me the opportunity to think through and to live through all these contradictions in how I feel about the institution of marriage, and how I feel about my relationship, and how the word husband still sticks in my craw. I want to call him my lover, and which hasn't been in vogue for 15 years. And so anyway, I just want to thank you for really helping me to support this, full-heartedly, even with all my ambivalence about the institution of marriage. So,
one of the things I wanted to say about that is, I know that there was a whole world of people who said, we don't want marriage, we don't want that tradition, and the like. The fact is, I question everyone the day after they got married, okay, who've been partners for a long time. Okay, there's a certain magic, okay, but one of the things that you watch happen is people who were never really secure in what their future was become incredibly secure. Okay. No, seriously. So in addition to all of the legal stuff that happens. And of course, there aren't just benefits, there are also responsibilities that go. I mean, there are some things Robbie pointed out in the case that, there are places where a person cannot do certain things against his spouse, okay, in this country. Okay? Only we weren't spouses, so therefore we were excluded from those things, which were bad things, really. It's really, forget the tradition, except that the word itself, a lot of us grew up wanting it, okay, thinking that was a great thing, and only we fell in love. And once you fall in love, it's a different thing entirely. But it's a kind of of secure joy. I don't know what to say what it is, but I know it's different.
Thank you. This business of husband, and I'm glad that David can call me his husband. Thank you for what you do. I actually want him to call me his butch. Also, a question for you, Barb. In your presentation, I was really struck by your talking about how you and Allison are the go-to couple in your family. And I find that's true with us, and I know in my family, we're the longest relationship in our family. And
You can have a support group.
Well, yeah, we have a very good support group, that's right. But I'm curious, did you find that to be true with a lot of other couples that are in the book? I mean, did you hear that story from others, that in spite of the fact that their relationship is not, sanctioned, these are very secure relationships that contribute a lot to the family?
Yeah, I mean, nobody really expounded on that quite so much, but I do know that a lot of people it's the place to go. I mean, everybody just enjoys our company so much. We have Thanksgiving, everybody comes to our house. We have the holiday dinners, everybody comes to our house. So, yeah. Should we sign some books?